Now go on to our next speaker, Dr. Meenakshi Ravindran. Dr. Meenakshi, could you share your screen? She is the Chief Pediatric Ophthalmologist, Refractive Services of Arvind Eye Hospital, Deputy Medical Officer at Tirunelveli. She is involved in the academics of the postgraduates and ophthalmic personnel and has a huge presence in national and international fronts and involved in major research activities and has many publications to her credit. She is going to dwell on introduction to strabismus surgery. On to you, Dr. Meenakshi.
Thank you, madam, for the warm introduction. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present in this webinar. I thank Chitra madam and the AOS ARC committee. Why do we operate? So all of them have talked about it, but the main thing we have to remember is we have shifted from cosmesis to now functional aspect we have to think about, that is the BSV restoration. Other than that, the other causes we have already been covered. The main issues to be covered was planning, anesthesia, and the techniques. Before we go on to the surgery, it is technically not very difficult surgery. The planning is more important. You have to have a complete knowledge of the anatomy, the ocular physiology, and the other resources which we have. And we should not forget about the psychological aspects of the parents and the grandparents, and the risk of anesthesia has to be explained. Coming to the anatomical considerations, we have to remember the variation in the insertions and the blood supply, where the anterior ciliary artery supplies two anterior ciliary arteries for the three muscles, and except for the lateral rectus, which is supplied by a single vessel. And we should remember about the thinness of the sclera at the insertion site when we are taking the suture bite. And the last but not the least is the vortex mains. When we are doing the oblique surgeries, we have to be careful that we don't inadvertently injure them. These factors have already been covered by the other speakers. The anesthesia, local, general, or topical with IV sedation can be considered depending on the age group. I have done a few cases of topical with IV anesthesia, but it takes more time consuming because you have to be a little more careful. Timing, ideal is depending on the type of the squint and the age of the patient, like congenital esotropia. If they come in early, we can even operate at 6 months of age if we can get a good workup done. Because I have been asked to talk about sutures and instruments also. An ideal suture is the one which can be easily manipulated with minimal or no tissue reaction. Usually what is used here in squint surgeries are either the absorbable or the non-absorbable. Absorbable is more common with 6-0 Vicryl, which is widely used. And the non-absorbable, we use either Ethibond or 5-0 Merslin. And the non-absorbable is used in muscle transposition or post-RD with buccal surgeries and resurgeries. And 6-0 Vicryl usually lasts, the absorption takes about 3 months, but it is tensile colding properties last for about 21 days. So it is quite useful for by the time the muscle adhesions will take over. But it has its own disadvantages also. It can have some tissue adherence and premature knotting. If you take the polyester suture, which is a non-absorbable suture, which is made of polyethylene tetraphthalate with coating with silicone or PTFA. And coming to the needle, the smallest possible diameter will be better. We have the 6-0 and 8-0 spatulated needles that can be asked in the exam whether it is spatulated or cutting needle. It's a spatulated needle which we use in squint surgeries. The basic squint instruments are a corneal fixation forceps, the Westcott scissors, and the muzzle hooks, and the Castroviejo calipers. Some other special instruments are needed for some surgeries, like Desmar's retractors for the obliques, or you can use the Helveston retractor when you are using when you are doing a superior oblique or inferior oblique surgery to retract the conjunctiva. On the muzzle hooks, we have the Graffi muzzle hook, which can be initially passed through a smaller tenotomy to localize the muzzle, or which we commonly used is Jamieson hook, which we use commonly, or the Green's hook for the muzzle to be, for the conjunctiva to be taken over. And Wright's hook we use sometimes when there is a tight medial rectus, as in Duvan's, because that it has a groove there through which we can pass the needle. When it is a tight medial rectus, we will be a little bit worried about taking the suture bite, and this helps because there is a groove there. And the gas hook was also used in fornix-based incision to pull the conjunctiva over. And for PTSO, we use the Stevens tenotomy hook. All these I'm just telling because for the exams, all these can be instruments can be kept. We have the muzzle clamps, the Jamieson's clamp or the Hartmann's forceps, which can be used for grasping the muscles for manipulation during resection. The calipers usually they use the Castrovillo, but when you are going beyond 8 or 9 millimeters, then Elveston's clear ruler or Scott's curved ruler can be used because to follow the arc of the eye. So before doing any surgery, starting the surgery, always do a force acceptance test and don't change the decision after induction of anesthesia. We have lot of nomograms for doing the measuring the how much to recess or reset. But in general, you follow one thing and then you tailor make it for your own for yourself, and that will give you the best results. So that you can refer to any book. Usually the incisions are either limbal incision you can make or the fornix based incisions. The limbal incisions are very good for the beginners, but the fornix based incisions are very useful in children and young adults, but it cannot be used for the older children. Swan's incision is no longer used. And there is one more thing called MIS or minimally invasive strabismus surgery, which I have not done, which we can go for multiple, sometimes it needs multiple 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter incisions. The basic principle of the surgery is weakening, strengthening, or changing the direction of the muscle. So the weakening procedures in the rectus, we have the recessions. It can be conventional, hangback, or marginal myotomies or retroequatorial myopexies. So coming to the recession, what we do here is the muscle is disinserted and reinserted posteriorly, inducing a slack or laxity. So the basic law that is being followed is the Starling's law, which states that the muscle force which is there is equal to the muscle tension. So when you push the insertion back, there is a muscle slackening, and you should see the curve is not a linear curve, it becomes exponential. So when you increase the recession, when you shift more posteriorly, the effect is more. So the same thing explained in the diagram, and the recession effect is more when it is towards the direction of the muscle recession. When the eye moves towards that, the recession effect is more. So some of the pearls is you can have a maximum recession of up to 8 millimeters for lateral rectus and 6 millimeters for medial rectus, but not so in children. We have to remember that we can go up to only 5.5 in children for medial rectus and little lesser in for a lateral rectus. So when you talk about bimedial recession, for an example, this I'm telling it because the more recession you go, the effect is more. So after 5.5 millimeter recession, for each 0.5 millimeter recession, the result will be a 10 prism correction. So why I'm telling this, even a 1 millimeter excess recession, if you mark, you land up with a 20 prisms over correction. So we should be very careful in marking the recession points. Always have a ear on the pulse oximeter. It becomes a second in nature when you are doing. And take a 6-0 vicryl suture here placed across the muzzle. And after tightening it, disinsert the muzzle. Be careful during disinsertion. Then sometimes you may need cautery. Don't use excess cautery. And mark the point. And here make sure that the needle you go too deep. Always the needle should be visualized when you're taking the bite. That helps in avoiding a perforation. So the needle should always be seen, and then this is tightened. Here you can do hang back or hemi hang back also can be done. So the strengthening can be resection, plication, and advancements. Advancements are mainly for resurgeries. Resection, the main principle being you are shortening the muscle, thereby the excision of the tendinous part. And this is little more difficult, or technically a little more difficult, but not impossible. Increased scarring can be seen. These are can be seen in the books also. A video showing a resection. Already we have hooked the muscle. So here you measure the place the where you want exactly. You mark the point and then take the bites in the muscle, and then you have to disinsert the muscle. Here you have to be careful. Sometimes if you are not careful, you can take a scleral bite along with the muscle bite. and then after disinsertion, then attach it back at the original insertion site. Then you can cut the excess muscle. So here also, as I told you in the anatomical consideration, you have to be very careful that you don't, the sclera is very thin at this point, and you should make sure that you don't perforate the globe. So you can see here the excess muscle is cut. So, but preferably now more shifting towards plication, because it's more reversible also, and you don't cut the muscle also. So in plication, less risk of anterior segment ischemia is also there, and video to show that. Mark the point and take the bite as in this thing. Here it is muscle, sclera muscle is the this thing. Here you don't disinsert the muscle at all. After taking the bites, you take a bite again in the just in front of the insertion. You take the scleral bite and then go back and take the a bite in the muzzle, and then use a spatula to fold the muzzle so that it is then overlapped near the insertion point, and you have a loop like that, and then tighten it. So this is gives very good results. So when you come to the obliques, a lot of people are talking in about anisotropia, inferior oblique overactions can be there. So we have myectomies and control.
1 minute left.
Better to avoid myectomies. These are the various procedures that can be done for inferior oblique. I'll just show one Parkes recession alone. Here is the limbal incision. And main thing we have to remember when you are taking the oblique surgery is, this I have doing a lateral rectus and a oblique, so I have gone through the limbal incision. Go on, you should make sure that you hook the whole muscle. There should be a clean triangle there. There should be no posterior fibers there. One advantage of oblique is it doesn't disappear, so you can cut it and then take the suture bite. Here it is the Parkes incision. You are now marking a point, 3 or 2 millimeters lateral and 3 millimeters inferior to the lateral inferior rectus, and then you get the recession effect. We have various things like anterior positioning and all that. For want of time, I'm not talking about that. In superior oblique, usually tenotomies, in general, tenotomies or myectomies are better to be avoided. Usually we do a posterior tenectomy or a superior oblique tuck. In the posterior tenectomy for pattern deviations, when there is a oblique overaction, you can go for a posterior tenectomy. Here it's a superiotemporal fornix base incision, 8 millimeters from the limbus, and directly you can go and visualize the this thing after one small this thing, and you dissect the fibers and then just cut the posterior fibers alone, and this anterior fibers are left intact, and so that you don't disturb the intorsion. Other special procedures are adjustable sutures, transpositions and shifts. Transposition surgeries are mainly done to in paralytic strabismus and in small vertical and horizontal deviations and in alphabetical patterns. The main thing is it changes the direction of the through the resting tone of the transposed muscle, we get the effect. So there we have the Hammersheen, the modified Hammersheen. I'll just show one augmented Hammersheen where the partial tendon transfer is done along with the resection. So your superior rectus is hooked, and then you do the dissection of the muscle, partially dissect up to 10 to 12 millimeters, go posteriorly. And here we are doing an augmented, so we are doing a small resection also. This was for a 6th nerve palsy. We are taking this from the superior rectus and then inserting it near the lateral rectus along the arc, and it gives a very good result. When you want to avoid anterior segment ischemia, go for a globe fixation sutures to either to the lateral wall of the orbit. For the pattern deviations, when there is no oblique overaction, we can just male is the mnemonic, medials towards the apex and laterals towards the away from the deviation. I am not talking about the adjustable. I have the videos. And the techniques to prevent an ASI is vessel sparing surgeries can be done to avoid the anterior segment ischemia, or we can go for globe fixation. So excellent post-op results can be got with a good pre-op assessment, a good planning and meticulous surgery.
चलो बात करते हैं, मैं बात करता हूँ, कल एक बार तुम भेजो फिर हम डिस्कस.
And I thank my team, Dr. Chakrabarti, for helping in this presentation, and some of the videos from Dr. Fatima and Dr. Chakrabarti and Dr. Neelam. Thank you one and all for giving me this opportunity.